This is the podcast where awareness meets real life transformation.
This is going to be a pretty magical conversation.
It's really finding out what your passion is and letting that shine through. There's a lot of room for everyone to be an influencer. There's a lot of room for everybody to go viral. There's a lot of room for everybody on TikTok. We're all marginalized community, like all of us at this point, because it is the 1% versus everyone else. I'm not going to stop being a menace, in any way, shape, or form, because, I, like you mentioned earlier, I'm a truth teller. And I want to make sure that if the truth is not being told, I'm going to come out and I'm going to debunk that piece of it so that we're providing people with authenticity.
Let's drop all the stuff that we keep being at war with each other, separating us, this illusion of separation, because at the end of the day, we're all built the same thing. Let's come together and we can be a strong unit together instead of being puppets.
Welcome, everybody, to the Our Daily Magic podcast. And this is the podcast where awareness meets real life transformation. I'm Kai, joined by my co-host and partner in magic,
Dale.
Here we explore the wisdom, stories, and experiences that ignite personal evolution, intentional living, and deeper connections to humanity. Our guests are visionaries, entrepreneurs, seekers, and truth tellers who are redefining,
Or all of the above.
or all of the above,
Okay.
who are redefining like literally what's possible through our journeys, their journeys. So if you're ready to expand your mind, embrace your power, and create magic in your everyday life, you're in the right place.
Awesome. So let's create some magic. So the guest that we have today, I'm excited to have this guest.
Same.
I came across this lovely soul on TikTok. I like to call this person my inspirational morning news to let me know what's going on into the world. And for those of you out there who already know who this person is, all I have to do is say 2 words: surprise, surprise. So I'm gonna allow the floor for this amazing soul to introduce himself. We all know as Danny, but like gonna get to know more about Danny, his journey, and everything else. And this is gonna be a pretty magical conversation. So, ladies and gentlemen, me.
It's Danny. So my name is Danny. I am a licensed clinical social worker by trade. I have been working in the mental health field for 10 years. Currently, right now, I'm doing some telehealth therapy right now, and I'm transitioning back into a clinical director role in a couple of weeks. I just took a little break for a little while just to kind of get my feet wet. I wasn't really ever a therapist before. Like I transitioned right from school into a management position, and I wanted to do some therapy work, with some clients, and so I did that. Prior to my time as a clinician, I was a professional dancer. There's a couple of videos that I have posted on my TikTok that kind of explains my career. I graduated from high school. I moved to New York right away. I was with the Alvin Ailey Dance Company. That didn't last very long. That's a whole nother story for another time. But I ended up moving to Colorado, and then LA, and then Ohio to dance professionally. And then I ended up retiring and then moved into the mental health field.
Awesome. Yeah, because I was looking at some of your videos and I was like, that pointed toe is just like impeccable posture throughout.
It's so interesting because the things that people are complimenting me on are the things that I've always had insecurities about. So my smile, my feet, my skin, those things I always had these insecurities about because they were not the way that they look right now. My feet in particular, like that was one of the things that I was working on the most when I was a dancer. I feel like I was so like stressed and tensed when I was performing that my feet were like, you know what, we're not gonna relax. The rest of my body was pretty flexible, as you can see, in some of my videos on TikTok. But I appreciate what happened on TikTok. I did the leg and the surprise video, the combo of that and providing, the political commentary just sort of like made me into the surprise guy.
Yeah. And I want to get more into that. Surprise guy. I want to learn more about when the surprise became the surprise, in which when the one day that you say, you know what, I'm going to create a video. I'm going to create this content. Can you walk us through that very first time you actually did it? Like what was going on in your mind and really your intention behind it? What led you to actually creating that first content?
I really wish that I had an amazing story behind this. Like I really do, because I get this question all the time. And I really wish I'm gonna just make up an amazing story. So I was like laying in bed and I was like, you know what? No, I'm kidding. I was literally laying in bed, like no joke. And there was something about, I can't remember exactly what it was, something about Elon Musk. It was the president of France was going to be suing Elon Musk. There's a lawsuit or something like that going around. And so I remember hearing the song and I like the song. I like the tune. It's hilarious. I'm laying in bed and I just lift my leg up and then that's where it all started. Yeah.
But that's inspiration right there. Whoa, that's amazing of that happening. You just got inspired to do something from watching a video, and especially as a fellow content creator, a lot of times we create content as inspiration off of what we see.
Yeah.
But then what happens from there is we bring into our own flavor of our
Yeah.
own message and stuff. And yours is educational slash funny, like a combination of both. So yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I did transition after I was a dancer and I performed, around the world. I was a choreographer as well too. And so the teacher choreographer. And so I have a bit of an understanding of how to entertain people and create steps, in a way that will kind of reel people in a little bit. So there is that as well too.
Got it. So it's a little by design.
But mostly improv, like some of the newer videos that I'm doing now, because I just got put back in the creator program. I was booted out because I was a bit of a menace.
I'm laughing at you say that because I'm actually booted out right now too, and I'm about to get back in on Sunday. So we are ministers to TikTok society.
Yeah. I mean, there are two things. Like one, I had no idea I was in the creators program. And somebody asked me about it, like once I started to gain some traction on TikTok. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know. I know. So I went and I checked and they were like, you're not able to apply again until this particular date. And I was like, I didn't even know I was in it. And so it started to think back. I was like, why would I be kicked out? And I was like, yeah, I was a bit of a menace, and it was really around the election time. And I can go back and like look at some of the videos. I was like, oh yeah, and I was like, I totally did not deserve to be in the creators program, But yeah, here we are. I'm not going to stop being a menace, in any way, shape, or form, because I, like you mentioned earlier, I am a truth teller, and I want to make sure that if the truth is not being told, I'm going to come out and I'm going to debunk that piece of it, so that we're providing people with authenticity. Like this is what we want to do. This is where we want to be, and not living in this fantasy fallacy world, where everything is just an untruth.
So well put. So well put. There's a couple little things that I want to check in on here. One is, how is your mental health? I mean, there's so many things that go on after going viral, like, getting more visibility. Like, can we just check in on you for a minute? Like, how are you doing?
Yeah, it was interesting because in the beginning, so I always told myself I never wanted to be famous. Because I would not be. I use Michael Jackson as an example of like, people rushing out and the big crowds and stuff like that. And I'm going, I would never be able to handle that. I would just like stay so reclusive, which is what he did at some point. And so I was talking to one of my friends, and she asked me the same question, like, "How is your mental health with like all of this new, recognition?" And I said, "I'm a little bit nervous." That was my initial response, that I was a little bit nervous just because of the political climate. And people know who you are once you get to a certain status. And so that made me a little nervous. And then I thought to myself, I'm going, what? I was like, you're not that guy. Like, you're not nervous, you're not afraid. It's like, again, I moved out of my house when I was 18 and moved to New York. So I'm like, I was never that guy. So I shook that piece off, the nervousness piece. And with my mental health, I practice what I teach. I
Mm.
practice what I preach. And so a lot of the things that I'm talking to my clients about, I actually do. One of the things that I do, that I teach my clients, especially my newer clients, is really doing a self assessment check in the morning. And for me, that consists of a full body scan because I'm moving again now. I have to make sure that, like, my body is okay and I'm going to be able to do some of the things that I want to do. So I do a full body scan, figuring out like what parts of my body I need to stretch a little bit more, what parts of my body I need to take care of, Epsom salt, all the other things because I'm a man of a particular age at this point. Um, and then I do what I call a mental health itinerary. So I check in and I figure out what it is that I will need today in order for me to be successful. Whether that's adding meditation to my day, whether it's drinking more water, which I need to do because I'm terrible at it, eating my 6 meals a day, because sometimes I will go with one meal, which is not good. So no one ever do that. And so I just want to make sure that I'm checking in so that I'm assessing basically my emotional, physical, social, spiritual, tenets so that I can be, a holistic and full person for whoever I'm engaging with throughout the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that, of mindful time for yourself
Mhm.
before going out to the world, checking in with yourself. But I like to use the analogy of a self-care cup, filling up your cup before you serve others and making sure you're good, which is something predominantly in the world a lot of people forget.
Mhm.
So busy caring for others and not spending that time for yourself first, and just how much of a more amazing space you are to serve others when you actually spend that intentional time in the morning to serve yourself. I love it.
Yes, I always use the airplane analogy where they always say like, make sure that you put your face mask on before anybody else's, because it's like it's true. It's like you said, you have to make sure that your cup is full in order for you to provide for other people.
Yeah. Somebody added to that quote yesterday. I was talking to somebody. 'Cause I was like, people use the plane analogy. So you ever hear the one when they say like, if you don't put your mask on, you're not gonna be able to breathe. So how can you help somebody else if you can't breathe?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like, you're not going to be able to breathe, so like we're all going down.
Definitely another way to look at it.
Yes.
I don't know if you know this about each other, but you both have something in common
We're black.
besides that.
I'm black. When did I just found that out today. I'm black. Thanks.
What?
Is that you both went viral in the space of mental health.
Mm.
Yeah, you did.
How?
So Dell went viral for that infamous video of Black men frolicking.
Oh,
Mm.
And he was the one yelling "we" in the background that everyone was commenting on.
yeah.
So I'm curious for both of you, like, how does it feel to kind of like embody that, like being a role model for other Black men?
Mm. You're gonna go first, Dale? You want me to go first?
Just gonna let you go.
uh, so I am, because of what I do, and being a licensed clinical social worker, I'm in a lot of spaces that are non-Black. And because I'm in that space, I represent a lot of different people. I represent the Black man in that space. And so I take pride in that, knowing that there are going to be a lot of questions asked of me in that space, and making sure that I'm being an adequate representation, of Black men in that space. And like I said, it's a privilege. Like it's a privilege to be able to be a positive representation, of the Black man in spaces that are typically questioning whether or not Black men can be a positive role model.
Yeah. I resonate with that and piggyback off of that, of just being in different spaces like that in which you have an opportunity, and I have numerous opportunities before to shift people's perspective around a Black man. And sometimes they will come up to me and let me know that, hey, I thought you were this way. And then once I was get to know you, you help me to see that you're different, as opposed to what society would tell you, oh, this is what a Black man is, rough and tough, gangster, like all that other stuff. And me, I'm this cuddly, emotional, expansive, fun, loving version of myself, but being able to connect with people, but also know the importance of dealing with your mental health in a healthy way, because of the opposite side of not dealing with my mental health in a healthy way and projecting that on everyone. So
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Thank you both. All right, now for the prodding questions.
I was waiting for them.
Danny, would you consider yourself to be like a male version of Candace Owens?
If I were drinking, I would have spit out whatever I was drinking everywhere. Because absolutely not.
Got it.
It is hard for me to envision a person like Candace Owens with the platform that she has, and she's not using it to her advantage.
Mm.
And there's a lot that I could say about Candace Owens. And it'll be like the whole entire hour we're just talking about her. But I feel sad for her. And I empathize with not necessarily her, but the position that she's being put in at this point in time. She does have the choice to make better decisions that are aligned with helping people, being honest with people, but chooses not to do that. And for that, I feel sad, and I feel sad for a lot of people that are on the right at this point in time, and especially in the direction that the country is heading into. Because coming from a social worker background, the background that I'm in, it's like we're here to protect communities, and that's all communities. So there are going to be a lot of people who, I was just mentioning this the other day, there are going to be a lot of people who I don't agree with politically, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not going to put my best foot forward and try to help them. Essentially, I am a healer and I am a helper in that sense. So that's always going to come first for me, in that sense. And so back to Candace, no, I do not see myself as a male version of Candace Owens in any way, shape, or form. I feel like I would be like her nemesis, in a sense, because I'm preaching and teaching the opposite of what she's doing at this point. which is love and acceptance.
Speak about nemesis. Because with getting the TikTok exposure and the more you get out there, and I just know from my own personal experience, when you get the videos that really get out there, you get the responses from people on both sides, people who agree, people who don't agree. Have you had nemesis come at you for you sharing your truth?
Yeah, most of them, the way that I have my TikTok set up, I didn't even know that I did this, but apparently certain words trigger them to go into like Neverland. Um, but I go and I check Neverland every now and then. And so it's toxic over there, you know, and I'm reading some of the comments. I posted a video about some of the things that people were saying about me. And you know, the assumption, you know, it immediately goes to sex, and it goes to identity, you know, and those different things where it's like, I mean, like the race baiting, you know, the gay baiting, like all of those different things, all those different topics that sort of like come out and sort of get to them, because I'm like, this is where their brain is. You know, like if this is where your brain is, then maybe you should have a conversation with your therapist, have a conversation with your God about like why it is that this is where you're going to, like this is where you're leading with. And so I used to, and this is where I was getting in trouble and I was being a menace. I used to respond to a lot of those videos. Mainly the ones with the errors and the misspelling in it. And so I use the Reading Rainbow as I use Reading Rainbow as one of my things. I just sit there and then I sing a little Reading Rainbow, and then you know show the actual spelling of the actual word. And so this is where it all started for me initially, is my response to certain comments and certain videos. But with that said, it's very difficult to be on this platform because I like to debate. And I don't mind having a debate with someone, you know, who is going to bring um, some substance to the conversation, some facts to the conversation, and some realness, you know, to the conversation. And it's hard to do that on TikTok because you're so limited in your responses. I feel like I have a personal a person that's assigned that's designated to me on TikTok, because as soon as I put any semblance of anything that could be remotely close to being a little bit concerning, boom, like immediately I get like a community guidelines. Yep.
Wow.
Every single time I put they have, like, you know, when they have the emojis there, they have the ones that you can choose from. There was one that had a clown there, so I should be able to use a clown because you're suggesting it, TikTok. And so I use a clown, and then boom, community guidelines. You know, so I was like, I feel like there's someone that out there who's like personally designated to me to just figure out like if I'm going to be a menace or not. Yes.
I call that, do I got time today?
Yes, and then in my menace phase, I was like, I got time. Like I would literally sit on there and just go back and forth, you know, back and forth. Because again, like I said, I like the debate aspect of it, and I just have to be very mindful of like how you do it on TikTok. I'm a Twitter refugee. And so I was on Twitter before Twitter became X, and then it became X, and then now it's like a whole other thing. And I deleted my account, and we moved to Blue Sky, all the things that, you know, a lot of us are doing at this point. But you were able to have that dialogue with people on Twitter without like instantly getting, you know, this community guidelines thing, which stunts your ability to actually have conversations with people, because you're limited to what it is you can say and can do. But to answer your question, yes, I will sometimes engage with my nemesis.
Yeah, it's interesting too. Like I always say, Like when that happens, like sometimes I go live and someone will just come in and spew negative stuff, or even in the comments, I'm like, man, like you didn't have coffee yet and you're choosing violence. Like,
And choosing violence.
but
So
I always tell people, I say, like, do you know how much like inner hate you gotta have towards yourself to just go online, you don't know this person personally, and you just want to spew hate at people you don't know personally? Like, I have compassion for them, but then also I'm like, you really have such a inner war going on to just do that.
yeah, and that's where I, again, because I'm a social worker, because I'm a therapist, that's when I know what's going on there. You know, I know that there's a lot of hurt there. I know that this is like intergenerationally transmission down of the racism, the bigotry. Like I know this stuff, it's the upbringing, you know, so I know all these things. And so it's like I can have a little bit more compassion, you know, for it. Does it annoy me? Yes, absolutely. Because I'm like, we're all adults here. Like, so let's have an actual conversation about what the issues are. If there are any issues at all, and most of the time there isn't an issue. Like there's this hate being spewed just because you want to spew hate. You know, we haven't had, you don't know this individual that you're engaging with. So like, why not start off with an actual conversation versus like you said, 7 a.m. in the morning, hate, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. And personally, I feel like that's what, if that happened, we can come to some type of common
Yeah,
ground. Conversations, not all the way over here, all the way over here, like
yeah,
this. Like common ground, common conversation. Like conversations create solutions, resolution and stuff.
correct. And I mean, I identify as a more moderate Democrat. And so a lot of the things I had a lot of Republican friends, and so a lot of the things that we would align with some of the things, you know, in discussions and stuff like that. Now I identify as a liberal just because I want to troll. You know, so a lot of trolls are like, yeah, I'm a liberal. Yeah, I'm totally a liberal. You know, but there I had Republican friends back in the day, you know, and they were political stances that we didn't agree on. And then that was it, you know. But now what's happening in this particular with the MAGA Republicans is it's not about politics. It's one, the hate, the racism, that is a core, and that's a crux of like what's going on in that party right now. With that said, there are a lot of things that we agreed on prior to this election. We wanted a better economy. We wanted lower prices across the board, whether it's groceries, whether it's gas. Like we want all the things that they were complaining about. Like we're going, yeah, we want those things as well too. But we also want you to basically mind your own damn business, you know.
Mm.
That's the biggest thing, you know, because like what this person is doing over there, if they're not, and I always say this, if you're not hurting yourself or anybody else, then why is it a problem for you? Like why is it a problem for you? But like ultimately, like I said, we want the same things. We're all in this fight, right? Especially right now, what's happening with being the government, the federal agency being gutted, and all these jobs are being lost. The complete opposite is happening in this country, where we're in a recession. You know, it's like people say we're headed for a recession. Like no, we're in it. The recession, the inflation, that's happening right now. The oligarchs that are like up there, you know, and in the White House, and nobody wanted this. Like nobody wanted this, and we can see right now with the rumblings that's happening on the right, at those town hall meetings where the Republican senators are like being told not to have the town hall meetings because they're being scrutinized, they're being booed, you know, and they're being heckled, and they're being confronted with the truth. Like we didn't, nobody, left or right, no one asked for this. And, you know, this is again where I feel like my empathy kicks in as well, too, because I'm going, there is no right, there is no left at this point in time. We're all marginalized community, like all of us at this point, because it is the 1% versus everyone else. And that's what's happening in this country. The 1% versus everyone else. So we are all in the same boat. Don't be getting mad at the LGBT community. Don't be getting mad at the Asian community. We all the same. We are all the same. We're on this together. We're going to stick together. Afterwards, we're going to have a couple of conversations, you know, because some of y'all didn't do what you should have done in the first place, because we have that 92%, we have that 76, the number keep changing, 72 and 83, whatever it is. But black women, and black men, we did the job. We went in and we did what we were supposed to do. And if everyone would have done that initially and listened to that black lady when she was up there saying what she was going to do, because she was going to do all the things that she said she was going to do and more. But here we are.
Yeah.
Here we
Sometimes I like to call it the spiritual sledgehammer. And I feel like collectively life has given us that sledgehammer to come together, but really see what's really has been going on for generations. And it just had to get louder and louder. So that way, okay, let's drop all the stuff that we keep being at war with each other, separating us, this illusion of separation, because at the end of the day, we're all dealing with the same thing. Let's come together and we could be a strong unit together instead of like being puppets.
Yeah, and it's happening slowly. It's not happening as quick as we want it to happen, because it's like we've been saying this for centuries. You know, I was like, if y'all would have listened to Black people in the beginning, then we wouldn't be in this mess right now, because we've been telling y'all forever. Like we've been saying it, like, what do you think civil rights was for? What do you think Black Lives Matter was for? Like, what do you think all this stuff was for? Like, we've been screaming it from the mountains, but we were being told that we were being victims. And so now that the entire country is feeling just a semblance of it, because they don't know what it really feels like, just a semblance of what Black people in this country have been experiencing for centuries, now are like, oh yeah, now we need to do something. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna sit back for a little bit and I'm gonna stay hydrated for a moment. And and I'm gonna let y'all do what you do first, because like this is I want y'all on the front lines, and I want, because you told me to my face that you were gonna go in there and you were gonna be voting the right way. You said it to my face, and it didn't happen. So fix it.
I'm laughing because when Danny said front line, I'm thinking about a couple of weeks ago, one of your content.
Yes.
With the supermarket man. He's like, hey, you guys that are listening, no, you don't get the leg today.
No, it were not getting the leg, because the same thing happened when we were no-cutting Walmart, and Walmart came out with that raggedy bag, and then people were online talking about, oh, I got my fake Birkin. I was like, okay. we had this, so, and it wasn't even a week. It was like 4 days, and then you're like, look at me, I got my working. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm talking about. This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
This is why we can't have nice things, because you went out, you bought this fake Birkin that was cheap, and it probably fell apart the same day.
Remind me, like, when your nana sits you down and like,
yeah,
I'm disappointed in you.
Yes. And people are really sad. They were like, no. I was like, nope, no leg. You don't get the leg. It is off today. Because people are saying like, oh, I didn't know this was happening. I forgot. And sometimes I will let that slide. But like, this was on the news. Like they talked about this on the news, saying like, this is what's going to be happening on February 28th. There's going to be a nationwide blackout, blah, 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 you know, and people are still trying to act brand new. I was like, okay. No leg for you. No leg for you.
Slight pivot.
Yes.
We can always come back. I'm curious if you have any words to lend to these uh, new influencers that are on the rise.
Mm.
Um, and this is a selfish question because I'm personally interested in elevating a new generation of healthy influencers.
Mm.
Like, are there some words that you can lend to people who are creating content, nowadays, and it's starting to get a lot of likes, a lot of views? Like, what should they speak their truth no matter what? Should they share positivity no matter what? Like, how do these people kind of like contribute to the positive trajectory of the country and the world while still being an influencer?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, first and foremost, like you always want to be true and authentic um, when you're creating content, and that's kind of how I even started when I was doing this whole process is just being exactly who I am. Um, the algorithm likes it.
Hmm.
The algorithm likes when I'm speaking versus be uh, utilizing sounds. The algorithm also likes a little bit of volatile content. I'll say. I'll say more controversial
Okay.
so it likes that, because people are going to engage, with what's going on. But I was thinking about this the other day. It's really finding out what your passion is and letting that shine through. There's a lot of room for everyone to be an influencer. There's a lot of room for everybody to go viral. There's a lot of room for everybody on TikTok. There's probably people that I haven't even reached, yet on TikTok because it's so vast. But it is picking what it is that you are passionate about. I follow a creator who is passionate about immigration. So that's what our content is about. I follow a couple of other newscasters or people who are providing the news. One is Under the Desk, so like their shtick was like providing news from under the desk. My shtick is surprise, surprise with my leg. And so it's finding something that works for you, but also being authentic about it and not and I saw a lot of people were like, doing mimicking kind of what I was doing, which I thought was great. But then like there are some people who are just like straight up copycat, and so and not giving me any credit as well too. Which again, that part I don't mind as much, but I'm going like, now you're just taking my content and utilizing it and doing the same exact thing that I was doing. So it's like when you try to do that, people are going to know, and people are not going to want to engage because people are like, oh, well, that's Danny's content, and so they're not going to engage in what's going on there. But like I said, finding something that you're passionate about. So if you're, like I said, the immigration, I'll just use that as an example. So if someone's passionate about, immigration, so sticking to that content, and this is what you do. So people know what you do. People know that I'm the surprise guy and I'm going to put my leg up. That's not all the content that I do, but that's what people know me for. And so I'm going to do that still every now and then. I can't do it too much because, like I said, I'm a particular age, and my PT was like, "You need to do one leg a day, one leg. That's it." but it is that it's and when you start to like kind of go around and people getting they get confused about what it is that you're trying to present. Try to use the same font, so that when people see your content, they go, oh, okay, this is so and so's content. Mine was surprise, surprise. So they knew when you hear the surprise, surprise song, you're like, oh, that's Danny.
Yeah, that and the Pink Panther.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, the Pink Panther that was a new one that I kind of added in, and then there's the other one that it has a naughty girl sort of undertone to it. That one. So those three are kind of like my thing, and it just depending on what I'm talking about. So surprise, surprise is typically like when something happens that wasn't supposed to happen.
Mhm.
So the complete opposite of what a surprise, surprise is. Pink Panther is typically a little bit more serious stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
And then the other one is if so like JD Vance was booed and heckled, so like that's when that's when I'll provide that some of that content as well too, or that utilize that music for that. But yeah.
Thank you. Super helpful.
How many times when you're out, people say surprise, surprise to you?
So I don't go out much. I decided that I was gonna go out, was it like 3 weeks ago? And I made a video about like I'm heading out to go support um, uh, my local shops and bars and stores, whatever. And like I go out and I see people looking at me, but I didn't think that I was anything at that point in time other than just me being Danny walking into the place. And then we're at this one bar and this woman comes over to me and she goes, "Are you the surprise guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh my God, I have to take a picture. Let's do the leg together." I was like, "Well, I'm not doing the leg right now because I will probably fall on the ground and I'm not warmed up." But it was so interesting. So at least like 4 or 5 people that night came up to me and I'm like in these pictures with these people. I have no idea who they are. Um, so it is a very interesting time to be, but I also am being very mindful about what I'm posting and where I'm going as well too, because you have the opposite effect. People who think they know you, um, and they've created this. Oh, I forgot the name of it, but it's the parasocial relationship with you where they've been dating you online and you have no idea who they are, and then you see them out in public. Oh yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, I love you," and I have to be mindful of that as well too. The responding to the "I love yous" comments that are placed online as well too, just because that response back could also turn into some type of relationship in their heads.
Wow. Dance stands.
It's something that happens in therapy, as well too. And so you're working with a lot of people people who are vulnerable. And so because you're a healer and because you're a helper, that's sometimes viewed as, oh, I care about this person, but the care transitions into something a little bit more. And so
Hmm.
one of the things that I would teach my mental health workers and residential staff is like just really being mindful of that process. And when you're engaging with, clients in a way, because there is that counter transference that happens from the client to the worker that they're working with. And so really being mindful of that relationship and not providing gifts and sitting on a couch, sit on the opposite side of the couch. I mean, things like that, to where it's not being viewed as this sort of like romantic relationship that happens there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious now because of you mentioned when you're at the bar, the person is like, "Hey, it's a leg together." Then I got to warm up first. So now, and this is $1 million question now, is what is the warm up process for you before you do the surprise, surprise leg?
So I am not, so I'll preface it by saying this. In high school, my nickname was Gumby. And then when I danced professionally, it transitioned into rubber legs. So I've always been like pretty flexible and able to kick my legs up, and I can bend my back and do all the things flexible people can do. These days, not so much. So the stretching is a little bit different, just because, again, like I said, I'm a little older than I was before, and I wasn't stretching prior to doing my surprise. I was doing some minimal stuff. And so essentially I do where I'm just grabbing my knee and then just pulling my knee to my chest. If I'm laying on my back, pulling my knee to my chest and just sort of holding it there. I will do, this will be my foot. So I would just kind of circle my foot around one way and then circle my foot around the other way. I'll do that on both sides. And then I'll take what's happening here, and then I'll just kind of extend my leg up, there. I'll take this leg, and then I'll cross it over the side there. So these are all like hip stretches and hamstring stretches that are happening there in the position. So it's not a lot of stuff because I'm not doing like a lot of big like turns and leaps and things like that I used to do back in the day. But I just want to make sure that my feet are warm, my ankles are warm, and then my hamstrings are warm, because that's how I'm pulling my leg up to do my surprise.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now everyone gets to hear that. So every time you see it now, when you see surprise, you get to now know that there's a process that leads up to it, which is pretty cool. It's like the journey of life, the little steps that it takes to create the masterpiece at the end.
Yes. Yeah, it is. And I when I do my lives, I make sure that people understand, like, you just don't go out there and just like start pulling your leg up. Like the best time, to stretch, because you have to be warm before you stretch. So it's like a weird sort of dichotomy that happens there, because like you have to be warm before you stretch, but then you should be stretching while you're warm. So there's this whole thing going on. So there are certain things that you do. So I have a bike, and so I a stationary bike, and so I ride my stationary bike just to get like my upper body, and I'll do like some arm lifts and stuff like that, some little twists and things like that, just to kind of get a full warm body. Then I will start to do my stretches. Because you want to, again, like I said, you want to make sure that your body is warm before you actually start stretching, because that's how you can actually get injured if you try to stretch before your body is warm. Warm up and cool down. Those are the two things that you definitely want to do. So after you dance or do whatever you're doing, run or working out, you want to do a cool down as well too, which is essentially similar to what your warm up stretches would be as well too.
Got it. Another polarizing question.
we went down, and then we're going to go back up.
You're right.
And you're welcome to decline.
Okay.
Always.
I probably won't, but
all right. Kendrick or Drake?
I mean, Kendrick, of course. I mean, like, there's really no choice there, right? I feel like everyone's pro Kendrick and anti Drake. No, Kendrick is a lyricist, and I appreciate that. It's like I grew up with like Tupac and Biggie, so I love poetry, and I love the way that the words flow, like their flow of the way that they're doing. So it's a performance piece for me. So it's not anybody can just get up there and do manufacture, rap. But it's like, when people when when that's their craft.
Yeah.
And with Kendrick Lamar, like, that's his craft, and he does it so well. So Kendrick.
Got it. Thank you for your comment. You have anything you want to add to that?
Not like us.
Yeah, the Super Bowl performance was like, I mean, you can't go wrong with the messaging, and every element of it had a meaning and a purpose behind it. And it just, like, I was blown away. Like, I didn't think that I would watch that and go, oh, this is like one of the best like Super Bowl performances of all time. Because I like dance, like, because what I do, So it's like I like the dancing and like all the theatrics and things like that. But I was like, no, I was like, this is exactly what we needed at this point in time in our lives. Exactly what he did at that Super Bowl performance. It was spectacular.
Yeah, and some people were just pissed off about it too. It was the funniest thing because, oh, this is the worst halftime show ever. So yeah, you missed the message.
Well, it's also the worst because they know what the message is. Like
Yeah,
they try to act like, oh no, this is no, you know exactly what this is, and that's why Homeboy left, because he knew this was going to be directed at him. That's exactly why he left and got on that plane and start denouncing copper pennies. And now you mad at pennies, and now you mad at the Gulf of Mexico. Like, why don't you like brown people? What's wrong with you?
I throw all this stuff out there to keep you distracted, right?
Right. You're like, why the penny? Why you got to go for the penny? Out of all the coins, you got to go for the brown one. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, there was a lot of interesting executive orders going down. It was like, really, really.
And the straws as well too. Like, I was like, man, I'm like, what is up with you? And like, what is going on with you? Like, you got to go for America, the pennies, the straws. Like, what are we doing? Just,
I was like, I posted on either Twitter or somewhere else. I was because it was some executive order that he made about naming something America, something like that. I said, what's next? He's gonna name the oxygen America, oxygen America. What was it? Oh, English. The executive order for
oh
for
yeah.
the English language. I was like, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of silly because like the majority of people here speak English, so like it doesn't really matter, what you're doing. And let's talk about the whole, they're removing like the Black Lives Matter in New York, sorry, in Washington D.C., and I was stating like a lot of this stuff was for them. It wasn't for us,
Yeah,
because it's like we're going to continue to go in the direction that we're going. We're going to continue with our movement because these are movements. It's not like, okay, you remove the Black Lives Matter off the ground. It's like I totally forgot it was there. Because it's not for us. Like none of this stuff, DEI was not for us. So it's like you're removing all of these DEI programming at these different institutions, and I was like, it didn't affect people of color. It didn't affect Black people in general because like we didn't have those jobs.
Mhm.
So like they're trying to bait us in any way,
that's
shape,
it.
or form. They're trying to
Yeah,
bait us, and I keep telling. I will make a video every single time, and I will put it out and say like, "This is bait. Stay home, stay hydrated, build your communities, and keep doing what we're doing because it's all bait. It is all bait."
and that's the thing about it. Once you can start to realize that more of this, some people just do stuff to get a reaction out of you
Yeah,
because they feed off of it. No reaction is
yeah,
just there. Let it be. But
yeah,
focus, like you said, on the movement. The movement is still going on. The revolution is still
yeah,
televised, still going on.
yeah. Trying to take away Black History Month. I was like, you can't take away things that exist. Like, because we still gonna celebrate it anyway. We
Yeah.
still gonna celebrate Martin Luther King Day. Like, we still like these things. You like just because it's not on Google Calendar, like that don't mean like I'm okay. I'll look at my Google Calendar anyway, so I don't even know what's on there. So it's like we still gonna celebrate anyway because this is what we do.
Another pivot. What is some of the more funner aspects of what it is that you do during your day. It could be content, related or something else. Just love to get a peek into your world.
Um, I'm boring. And it's so interesting because people are like, oh, I wish I would live next to you. I wish I were your neighbor. I wish I were your best friend. Um, and like my best friend will tell you, like, he is lame. So, and I say that because I'm a homebody. I'm an introvert by nature. Growing up, people thought that I was shy, and but not really shy. I'm quiet, And if I have something to say, I would say it. But I realized later, in life, like what an introvert was, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's what I am, and that's what I've been. And so I typically like to stay at home and sort of nest and rest, in my space. But I like to do things as well too. So I learned how to be an extroverted introvert, because of like my dance career, and people would come to see me dance. And once I got to a certain caliber of dance, like people would literally come to see me. So going out and greeting, your fans, essentially, like I had to learn how to do that because I would just leave, and they're like, is he coming out? They're like, oh, he left like 20 minutes ago, so I had to learn how to be an extrovert. And so I Dungeons and Dragons. So I do D&D. And I bowling. So my family was on a bowling league growing up. And so I remember I went on a date, and this was like years ago, and we went bowling. And so I was just like gonna just pretend like I didn't know how to bowl. And then I got bored, and I was like, this is boring. So I started bowling for real. And people were coming over. They were like, is your score real? And I was like, what? And because I wasn't paying attention, like again, like my family was on a bowling league, and so I was just playing into how I would normally play. And I was like, oh yeah, no, that's my score. And they're like, do you bowl professionally? And I was like, no, I'm just having a good game tonight. So bowling is something that I find really fun. Karaoke. People found out that I can sing. So singing was my first, I wouldn't say necessarily love. It was just a gift from God. And my mom wanted me to be a singer. But it came naturally, and dance did not for me. And so I put a lot of time and energy into it. And so I took ownership in the dance piece. And with singing, I was like, I know how to do it. And so, but I do love doing karaoke. So singing is another one as well too. And then movies. I love going to the movies. I would go to the movies by myself. It would just be me and the senior citizens just hanging out at the movies. That one lady down there opening her candy for like an hour, her hard candy, for an hour. We're just hanging out in the movie theater. So those are the things that I like really love to do. And hanging out with my family and friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I gotta find out. Go to karaoke song, go to movie.
So my go-to karaoke song is Britney Spears' "Hit Me Baby One More Time."
My loneliness
Yes.
is killing me.
Yes. And people come up to me afterwards, and they're going, oh my gosh, you sound so much better than Britney. And I love you, Britney, but it's not very hard to do. I mean, because Britney's not a vocalist. She's not a vocalist. Come on. Like we're being completely honest here. She's not a vocalist. Like she's a performer. I love her. Like Janet Jackson's not a vocalist either. It's like, but Janet Jackson's gonna get on that stage and she's gonna do what she needs to do. Whereas Whitney Houston, a vocalist. Patti LaBelle, vocalist. Like these are people who are gonna get up there and they're just gonna sing. You don't need lights. The voice is coming out. So, but anyway, but that's one of my standards is Britney Spears, "Hit Me Baby One More Time." Movie, I get asked this a lot, and if The Color Purple is one of my favorite movies. The original, not this new,
Okay.
not the new musical thing that came out, because
Oh my God.
that was terrible.
Yeah.
Uh, and the cast, I love the entire cast in that movie though. Like
Yeah.
everybody who was cast in the movie, I was like, this is going to be really fun and interesting to watch, and it didn't cross the threshold for me in the movie. And then, I mean, honestly, I'm not a big fan of musicals either, so it's like that may have played a part in it as well too. But I just think the original Color Purple was just so amazing that I just loved it so much. But I'm also, speaking of musicals, I'm also digging Wicked right now as well too. Um, Very interesting timing of the movie, especially coming out right now, because I'm watching the movie and I'm literally going, this is like actually what's happening in our country right now. And I've seen the musical like 1,000 times, but I didn't really put it together. I'm sitting in the theater and I'm going, wait a minute. I was like, this is a microcosm of what's happening in our
Yeah.
country right now. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah,
Got it.
Britney Spears and Color Purple and Wicked.
It's a nice combination.
Totally.
Yeah, people. Mariah Carey is one of my favorite singers, and I would never do a Mariah Carey song. I would never do a Whitney Houston song, because again, their songs are just so like difficult to do. And my range of voice is very stunted. Like I can't hit high notes and low notes, and so like I have a range. Like I am a tenor, and that's where I stay. That is, I'm not going any higher. I'm not going any lower. That's it. And they're doing all the vocal gymnastics, in those songs. So I'm like, not doing those songs.
Yeah.
Fair. And as we start to wind down, I'm curious if you could paint us a picture of what it would look like ideally, in a year or 2 or 3 from now, with some of the principles that you're embodying and role modeling for the nation and the world. Like if they were to actually have the impact that you want them to have, like what could our world start to look like?
I did a video maybe like 2 days ago, and it kind of falls in line with what I was talking about earlier about understanding our role and what we can provide and offer within that role. Understanding the limits of control and what we can and cannot control, which leads to that radical acceptance of really going, this is essentially out of my control of what I can do. But my role as a social worker, as an influencer, is to, as I mentioned earlier, is to debunk, try to provide as much real, authentic information as possible, and spread love, respect, acceptance. Um, because like I mentioned earlier, if people would just mind their own damn business, the world would be a better place. Like it really would be. It was interesting because I was watching the time where we had to black out the ban on TikTok, and we all went over to Red Note. And this influencer had said something on there that sort of stuck with me. And he was talking about he was talking about the LGBT community in China. And he said, he's like, there are gay people here, there are lesbians, there are bisexual people, there are trans people here. He's like, but people aren't, that isn't who they are initially. Like, my name is Danny. And I have other identities that go along with that. And Danny, I'm also a Christian. I'm also a social worker. I'm also, pan. So there are all these other identities that go along with what it is that I'm doing. But initially, I'm Danny. And so really honoring that first piece of it. And then if other people have other questions about like what we're doing right now in this process here is like asking questions about what it is that I do, how I foresee the future, it would be a much better place because again, we're minding our own damn business and existing and coexisting in the best way that we can. If you have questions about something that you don't know or you don't understand and you want to know, ask those questions. Not to your homeboy over there because they don't know the answer, but go directly to the individual, the community, whoever that is that you want to get those answers from. Ask those questions so that it takes away that fear of not knowing. It takes away those biases, it takes away those prejudices, all of those things that are typically, like I said, intergenerationally transitioned down, just based off of the knowledge that you're provided from your upbringing, your community. And so love first and acceptance.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to add before we conclude, my friend?
What can I say after that?
Right.
Like,
Mic drop.
Danny, thank you so much for sharing your time, your presence, your wisdom with us and everyone who's listening. Del, you want to take us out?
sure. Stay magical.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
You've been listening to our Daily Magic podcast with Kai and Del. Please like, subscribe, and tune in next week for another magical episode. Visit www.ourdailymagic.com for more. Thank you for listening and have a magical day.